सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मच्छ्रीगुरुपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्परा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः साङ्ख्ययोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अशोच्यानन्वशोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे गतासु न गतासूंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पण्डिताः। न त्वेवाहं जातु नासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम्। देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति। मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्याः तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत। यं हि न व्यथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभा समदुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वाय कल्पते। नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तः त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः। अविनाशि तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततं
vinashamavyayasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanitaha nayam hanti na hanyate. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajamavyayam katham sapurusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Yeah, I think we stopped it at here. Atma is not born and does not die. Krishna also said in this verse, we're still on the 20th verse, Najayate mriyate va kadachit. Krishna also said in this verse that Atma, having been before, does not again become non-existent. Ayam bhutva abhavita va na bhuyaha. What is the sense of again here? Again having been, Atma does not become non-existent. Death is having been, one is no more. Such a situation is not there for Atma. Atma was, is, and will ever be the same. Because Atma is not subject to time, it is avikriya, not subject to change. This is one meaning. A person who was there before and is no more is said to be dead. Such a person is gone and no one can say where he or she went. However, you cannot say the same for the son of a barren woman. I think we've done this, but we're going to just do this once again. He did never existed at any time. Therefore, you cannot say that having existed, he ceases to exist now. A non-existent thing does not die. The barren woman dies, but her son does not. Death only applies when, having been, something goes away. A similar change does not happen to Atma. Atma is not subject to a futuristic extinction, which means that it is not subject to time in terms of the future in any way. Nor is it subject to time in terms of the past. That something did not exist before and has now come into being is another situation called birth. Having not been before, it came into existence. The one who is born is the one who, having not been before, comes into being. Abhutva bhavita. Previously, it was non-existent, and later it comes into existence. This also does not apply to Atma. Therefore, the words in the verse can be put differently also. Atma was not non-existent previously, and there will be no time when it does not exist. Either way you take it, either way you can take it. Bhutva abhavita na or abhutva bhavita na. Both meanings are given by Shankara here for the same line because both meanings are there in the verse. Having not been and then coming into being, which is called birth, is not there for Atma. Na jayate. Having been and disappearing, which is called death, is also not there for the Atma. Na mriyate. This being so, Atma is unborn, aja, because it is not subject to death. The word nitya also implies that Atma is not bound by time. It is not an object within time. It is something on which time depends for its existence and is therefore aja and nitya. The word shashvata, meaning that which is always the same, that never undergoes any change, was also necessary here to eliminate the possibility of the Atma being taken for something eternal, nitya, but continuously changing, eternally changing. Nor does Atma grow old. Therefore, the changes that the physical body is subject to between birth and death, that is, growth, metamorphosis, and decline, are also not there for Atma. Another word describing the Atma in this verse, Purana, generally means ancient, but here it refers to that which is ever fresh. Even though Atma was fresh earlier, it is still fresh. Always it is fresh. Atma is timeless and is the very content of the meaning of the word new, Nava. It was Nava then and it is Nava now. It is new now and previously it was also new. It is always new. It does not grow old. There is no aging, vriddhi, no decline, apakshaya for the Atma. In other words, even when the Sharira, the body, is destroyed, the Atma is not destroyed. Hanyamane Sharire na hanyate. It is always the same. We have seen then that the Atma is neither the subject nor the object of any action, which is why it cannot be affected by punya and papa or destroyed by anyone, not even Ishvara. If it were the subject of an action, it would necessarily undergo a change in order to perform the action. A new action cannot emanate in any other way. The subject, the doer of the action, has a thought or a desire, sankalpa, and undergoes whatever change is necessary to perform the action. For example, the desire to see something. Let me look at the book means that the person becomes a karta. There is a sankalpa, and the one with the sankalpa becomes the subject, the doer, and the doer undergoes a change. The change is in the form of a sankalpa, anxiety, and so on the part of the doer, the subject. That subject performs the action. If the Atma is a karta, The Atma itself must undergo this Vikriya, change. That this self-evident Atma undergoes no change and is therefore neither Karta nor Karma was made clear in the previous verses. We have seen that Atma is not the doer. Therefore, only an Atma that undergoes change, a Vikriyavan Atma, can be a Karta. Similarly, if Atma is the object of any action, it would be affected by any action perpetrated by someone towards it. You, the Atma. A karma action is that which brings about a change to the object of action. For instance, if I hit an object with a hammer, that object, the recipient of that action, must undergo some kind of change, and that change is the result of that particular karma hitting. Similarly, if Atma is the object of any kind of action, it must also undergo a change. Therefore, we would have a Vikriyavan Atma, an Atma that is subject to change. But Atma is avikriya, not subject to any change. The changing and the changeless. The physical body, on the other hand, is subject to change. When the ahankara, the ego, identifying with the body, performs an action, it is the physical body that performs the action in keeping with the ahankara's intention. The legs move, the hands move, the body shrinks or expands to a certain extent. In that, you can stretch it in order to reach something, or you can shrink yourself in order to get out of a tight place. Thus, the body undergoes all kinds of contortions. The body is at the disposal of the karta and undergoes a lot of change. It also becomes an object of action when someone else pushes it. The body is therefore vikriyavan. Not only does it undergo change, but it is meant to do so. The body is born, jayate, exists, asti, grows, vardhate, undergoes certain, just the meaning of Purana, the full form is Pura Eva Nava, Purana. Even before it was new. So the body undergoes certain modifications. Viparinamate, declines, apakshiyate, and dies, vinashyati, because it is vikriyavan, that which is subject to change. This we have seen in Tattva Bodh, no?
Yeah,
What
we did.
Stula Sharira? Stula Sharira is something that jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, jayate, jayate, asti, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati iti, shad vikaravat tat etat stula shariram, right? So that which is subject to change. Due to lack of understanding, this physical body and the Atma are taken together. Atma is taken to have a physical body as an intrinsic attribute. Therefore, I become as good as the physical body. Here, the discrimination, the viveka required is that while the deha is subject to change, Atma is not. It is neither born nor does it die. The first and last the first and last vikaras for the body, birth and death, are negated in Atma by this verse. So the whole thing is only a lack of understanding. That is why we identify the body, Atma, with the body. Atma was not born because there was not a time when it was not in order to be born. It was always there. Nor will it die because, having not come into being, there will never be a time when it will not be there. Thus, it is not subject to birth or death. Therefore, it is Nitya. Nor does it undergo the other changes that happen between birth and death. Therefore, it is Shashvata. The question may then be asked, if Atma does not decline, does it grow? Is it that when you are born, there is a nascent Atma, a baby Atma, which then becomes a child Atma, adult Atma, and so on? No, Bhashyakara said, it does not grow either. Here Shankara introduced a small definition for growth, vriddhi. Any growth means that something that was not earlier should come into being. For instance, a young man previously did not have a mustache and therefore did not have to shave. Now he has both a beard and a mustache and has to shave every day. This is growth, vriddhi. Something new has happened. Does Atma grow? In any growth, there are always new features introduced. Either something is added to what is already there, or it expresses itself in some new way. Either way, the arrival of a new feature makes the thing grow. For instance, a small sprout begins to grow. It branches out, puts out leaves and flowers, and becomes a full grown tree. Therefore, growth always implies new features added to a given stem. And the new feature that has been gained means that which grows is no longer the same. Atma was always ever grown, meaning that it never grows. Only that which has a feature, an attribute, can grow and decline, wax and wane, bulge and contract. If it is a color, for example, it will fade or a new color may come. Something can happen to it, whereas the Atma, having no features whatsoever, no limbs or attributes, is Purana, ever new. Even when the body is destroyed, Hanyamane Sharire, Atma is not destroyed. Not destroyed is to be taken here in the sense of change, so as not to confuse its meaning with the use of Hanti and Hanyate, to kill and be killed in the previous verse. All that is being said is that the Atma undergoes no change whatsoever. Shankara concludes his commentary of this verse by saying that, with reference to Atma, Krishna negated the sixfold modifications that we see in any given physical body: birth, existence, growth, modification, decline, and death. The meaning of these two verses taken from the Shruti, therefore, is that Atma is free from any manner of modification. In no way is it subject to change. No one can effect a change on Atma because it is not available for objectification and does not have any feature or attribute, avayava, to receive such an action. Nor does Atma itself undergo a change to perform any action. Therefore, being both akarta, not a doer of the action, and akarma, not an object of the action, Atma is ashochya, not a source of sorrow. Where is shochya then? There should be an object available for sorrow, a situation capable of causing sorrow. The Atma cannot cause sorrow because it does not undergo any change, nor does it subject itself to change. How then can it be Shochya? Atma, whose Swarupa, nature is fullness, Ananda, can only be Ashochya. So if this is a, as of now, this is only mm, a knowledge that we are getting as a concept. But when this becomes a reality, becomes our experience, then we will be completely free from sorrow. Otherwise, we will continue, situations, people, relationships will continue to give us the shochya because of lack of understanding that um, the lack of understanding that the atma is not the physical body. It is not, doesn't have these attributes. It is avikriya, and it is not the karta and nor the karma, both. So once this becomes very strong and grounded in us, then if and when we get a situation that is causing sorrow, that is when we can detach ourselves from that, and then with this knowledge stay grounded and centered. If anyone wants to share anything with this previous shloka. Further, Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajamavyayam katham sapurusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Partha, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, enam, this Atma, avinashinam, indestructible, nityam, timeless, ajam, unborn, avyayam, that which does not undergo decline. Yaha Veda, the one who knows, Saha, that, Purushaha, person, Katham, how, Kam, whom, Hanti, kills, Kam, whom, Ghatayati, causes to destroy. O son of Pritha, the one who knows this, the self to be indestructible, timeless, unborn, and not subject to decline, how and whom does that person kill? Whom does he cause to kill? The one who thinks that Atma performs the action of killing, or any action for that matter, does not know Atma, and the one who looks upon Atma as an object of the action of killing or any other action also does not know the Atma. This is because, as we saw in an earlier verse, Atma does not kill, nor is it killed. Na hanti, na hanyate. To put it positively, one who takes the Atma to be neither the subject nor the object of action knows the Atma. What has been pointed out so far was summed up here by Krishna. His initial statement was that Atma does not become the karta or karma of any kriya, including killing, hanana kriya. Having introduced this point, he explained that this is because Atma is not subject to change. Having given the reason, he concluded stating that the one who knows the Atma knows it to be avinashi, not subject to death or destruction. The body's change is called bhava vikara, a technical expression to include jayate, is born, vardhate, grows, viparinamate, metamorphosis, apakshiyate, wanes or declines, and vinashyati, dies. Because Atma does not have this last bhava vikara, it is referred to here as avinashi. The one who knows Atma as one that is not subject to death and therefore timeless, nitya, is called an atmagnya, the knower of Atma. The Atma is also known by the Atmagnya as unborn, aja, and as that which does not undergo any kind of decline, avyaya. Unlike Atma, the body is expended as the years go by. This is why it is described as a spent force. The job being done, the game is over. That is, once your prarabdha is done, finished, that is it. The physical body disappears, gets destroyed. All that is then discussed is in the past tense. I was like this, I was like that, and I would have been like that, etc. This is vyaya. This is vyaya, expenditure, whereas the atma is avyaya. In Sanskrit grammar also, an indeclinable word is called avyaya, that which does not change in any situation, regardless of number, gender, or case. Whom does one kill or cause to kill? Bringing up one more point in his summary, Krishna asks, whom does that person destroy? Kam hanti. Whom does he impel to kill? Kam ghatayati. These are two types of action reflected here. One is the action that you do, and the other is the action that you make others do. In a robbery, for example, there is the accused number one and the accused number two. One may have performed the act of driving the getaway car, while the other performed the act of driving the driver. There is someone who performs the felony, and there is someone else behind it. The one behind the felony is the accused, and the one who performed it is only an accomplice. The accused is an important person, the kingpin, whereas the other one is only a pin. But both of them perform action. How can one who knows Atma perform the action of killing, and whom does he or she kill? Where is the person being killed? Where is that action? A question is not really being posed here. For instance, we are not trying to find out by what means the killing is done, nor are we trying to find out why the person does it or whether he or she kills. This is not the intent here. Rather, how can one kill and whom does one kill is being looked into. There should be some vikriya on one's part in order to perform the action, and Atma is avikriya. A doubt may arise here. If there is no vikriya for Atma, and the Atmajna knows that the Atma, the I, is not the performer of any action, how then can that person perform any action? What is to be understood here is that Atma does not perform any action. It does not kill nor cause anyone to kill because Atma does not even wish. It is the Swarupa of every wish. The wish is a Nama Rupa, a thought. And if you press the thought, it ends up in Atma. Whereas there is no thought anywhere. Wherein there is no thought anywhere. Thus, any given thought or desire is mithya, and the doership is also mithya. I will read the last paragraph once again. So, if there is no vikriya for Atma, and the Atmajna knows that the Atma, the I, is not the performer of any action, how then can that person perform any action? What is to be understood here is that Atma does not perform any action. It does not kill, nor cause anyone to kill, because Atma does not even wish. It is the Swarupa of every wish. The wish is a Nama Rupa, a thought. And if you press the thought, it ends up in Atma, wherein there is no thought anywhere. Thus, any given thought or desire is mithya, and the doership is also mithya. So, Atma is only the Swarupa, the consciousness behind every wish. Because the Atma is there, that there is a wish. Even the thought occurs because of the Atma. It's like the ocean and the wave. The wave comes in only because there is an ocean. But when the wave dies down, when the wave settles down, it merges with the ocean, where there is no wave at all. Thus, any given thought or desire is mithya. If you analyze who the doer is, you find that the doer is nothing but consciousness, Chaitanya. That is, the doer disappears in the Chaitanya and is not there at all. When the doer is there, Chaitanya is there. Whereas in the Chaitanya, there is no doer. Therefore, there is only drama. There is no real doer. Only an as though doer. It is as though he or she hears, as though listens, as though talks, as though walks, and as though stands. So, mithya is this as though. anything that is mithya is as though it's just a superimposition. There is no doership in Atma because Atma is always free. The notion that I am the performer of the action is the source of action we talk about here. Where is an action without a karta? Without the doership, kartritva, there is no real action at all. Therefore, the doership is the one that gives the blood, bones, and flesh necessary for the action to be an action and for the karma phala to be the karma phala, the result you enjoy. The whole cycle is based upon the kingpin, the karta. So if Atma is not the karta, then who is the doer? Without the karta, there is no karma or karma phala. The karta is defined as the one who decides and performs action. He or she has kriya, etc. and therefore can choose from the hundreds of verbal routes for doing that are available. The doer can choose to kill, to speak, or to do any of the varieties of actions possible. But for the Atma, which is avikriya, free from any change, there is no kartritva. Where then is the question of how and whom with reference to killing? Katham ghatayati, katham hanti, kam ghatayati, kam hanti. The word hanti here is only contextual and has nothing to do with killing as such. Shankara says that the expression is purely with reference to action. What kind of action does the person perform, and what kind of action does he or she cause anyone else to perform? A question may then arise here. If a person is a sarva karma sannyasi and has given up all karmas, will he or she not perform any action at all? Does the person not continue to perform some actions? Does he or she not teach? Does the person not do anything? Not even eat, walk, or talk? How can you say that one who still performs these actions is a sarva karma sannyasi? Sarva karma sannyasi is the one who does not have the notion that I am the doer. That is, the one who does not have kartritva buddhi. For such a person, there is no doership in the Atma. You are not a sarva karma sannyasi by merely not doing karma. You may be a karma sannyasi, but not a sarva karma sannyasi. Even if you do not do any karma, if you have kartritva buddhi, you are still only a samsari. A sarva karma sannyasi is a jnani, one who is totally free from all karmas. Even if karmas are performed, the jnani does not perform any action. In this, he or she has no doubt whatsoever because, with reference to the Atma, the self, the notion of doership is not there. All that takes place for the jnani is that the sense organs, backed by the mind, engage themselves in their own fields of activity. The jnani does not look upon himself or herself as the karta. This is the actual meaning of sarva karma sannyasa. Let's just go around these. There were quite a few concepts here. No, we've done this before, but it is good to just recap. So, A samsari is one who has the kartritva buddhi, that I am the doer. As long as you have this, you are a samsari. And as long as he has this kartritva bhava, he thinks he's the doer, he's the karta as well as does the action karma, he continues to enjoy the karma phala and goes through the cycle of punya, papa, and the cycle of birth and death. Whereas a karma sannyasi is one who just gives up doing karma, but he still holds on to the kartritva buddhi. He only holds on to, he only gives up doing karma. Whereas a sarva karma sannyasi is one who gives up this notion that I am the doer. He does not have the kartritva buddhi. And he is a jnani. So even a jnani, there is action that happens, but the notion of doership is not there. All that takes place for the jnani is that the sense organs backed by the mind engage themselves in their own fields of activity. The jnani is just like the ocean, just the witness to all the waves that are rising and falling down, rising and falling down. He does not identify himself with the wave. He is just himself, the wave. He knows he is the Atma, the Akarta. The Jnani does not look upon himself as a Karta. This is the actual meaning of Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Anyone wants to share anything on this? The real meaning of sannyasa. The person who is a sarva karma sannyasi is called a vidwan, one who is wise. All the karma that the vidwan has done so far, all the prayers, yoga, and other forms of discipline, and even a life of sannyasa have found their fulfillment in this sarva karma sannyasa. Thereafter, Shankara said, there is no question of such a person doing certain karmas in order to create some result. There is nothing more to do. All the prayers have been fulfilled in this particular discovery. And it is for this discovery alone that the prayers and other karmas were performed. In this way, Shankara connected Vedanta Shastra to the Karma Shastra. Karma Yoga is meant for this alone. Thus, Sannyasa is really Sarva Karma Sannyasa. I always had this doubt that if Karma Kanda is not the ultimate, why are we even following it? Why do we have all these yajnas and homas and chanting and mantras and all that? So here is what the link is. Shankara connected the two. He connected the Vedanta Shastra to the Karma Shastra. So all that, the prayers, yoga here should be looked at as Karma Yoga, I guess. So all the prayers, yoga, and other forms of discipline, and even a life of sannyasa have found their fulfillment in this Sarva Karma Sannyasa. So all this is done to get to that ultimate moment of discovery where you discover that you are not the doer. And this person is called a Vidwan. For the Sarva Karma Sannyasi, there are no karmas to be performed. The point here is that the rituals enjoined by the Shastra need no longer be performed by the Sarva Karma Sannyasi. If the person continues to be a householder, he or she is purely playing out previous karma, prarabdha karma, and whatever one was doing is continued. So a sarvakarma sannyasi does not necessarily need be um, a sannyasa in the sense of the ashramas, of the different ashramas. You can even be a householder and still be a sarvakarma sannyasi. King Janaka was a case in point. Although he was considered a wise man, he continued to be the ruler of a kingdom and was not bothered by the role at all. Like Janaka, one can be a wise person and be in the world or be a sannyasi without playing any roles, having given up everything to pursue knowledge. Either way, it is possible. Being a jnani has nothing to do with what the jnani seemingly does and does not do. This is what is meant by sarvakarma sannyasa, as established in the Shastra and elaborated upon here by Shankara. So, this is very clear now that one does not need to take to saffron robes in order to be a sarvakarma sannyasi. And this explains those little doubts that we had earlier about when does one take to sannyasa ashrama? Is that a happening? Or so even while being a householder, even by being a grahastha, you can develop this attitude of sarvakarma sannyas. When you say I am affected, then atma is looked upon as an object, a karma that has something affecting it. This person can be a person, this object can be a person, an event, or even Ishvara. Anyone who looks upon Atma as an object does not know Atma. The samsari's ignorance, ajnana, is such that not only does the person look upon himself or herself as a karma object, but also as a karta, which only heightens the ajnana. That is why it is said, if someone asked Gurudev once about, are you an enlightened person? And that is, the Gurudev's reply was, if a person says he's enlightened, know that he is not. And a person who is enlightened will not say it. Because once you say, I know Atma, you are objectifying Atma. You've made it an object of your perception. But Atma, as we have seen, is aprameya. It is beyond perception. It is not an object of perception. So the samsari's ignorance, ajnana, is such that not only does the person look upon himself or herself as a karma object, but also as a karta, which only heightens the ajnana. And therefore we go into all kinds of misery. Root cause is ajnana, lack of understanding. So once we remove the ajnana that we are the object or the karta, then automatically we will get out of this shocha. One looks upon oneself as a doer. Otherwise, one could not be a sinner. Unless a person performs action, there is no way of sinning. Nor is there any way of gathering karmas and karma phalas. So that is why it is said, jnanagni dagda karmani. So once you have this knowledge that you are not the doer, when you are in that sarvakarma sannyasa, when you attain that state, then all your karmas get burnt by the fire of this knowledge. But as long as you consider yourself the doer, You continue to gather karma phalas. Some people do not take the body as Atma, but believe that there is a survivor of this body. Some people do not take the body as Atma, but believe that there is a survivor of this body. Most religious people believe this to be so. Even the nihilists. Nihilists here are the, what was the name given to them? Those that do not follow the Veda, those that do not um, believe in the Vedas.
They believe in Vedas but not in God. Is that what you're saying?
No. There was a the Vedas.
Uh-huh. Atheist or
Yeah, atheist, correct.
uh-huh.
Atheist not in the true sense. They
Right.
believe in existence, but they don't take the Veda as the pramana. They don't take Veda as the means of knowledge.
Hmm.
So even the nihilists, Buddhists, believe that you are born again and again. Therefore, moksha for them is realizing that the Atma is a zero, non existent. They believe in the survival of the Atma until enlightenment, whatever their concept of enlightenment may be. Enlightenment may be. Vaidikis, right? Vaidikis are those that believe in the Vedas. They take the Veda as the pramana, and Nastikas and Astikas, that is the term. I forgot the term.
Okay.
Nastika is all the nihilists, Buddhists. Nastikas are those that do not take Veda as the pramana, as the means of knowledge. Whereas
Right.
Astikas are all those that consider the Vedas as the means of knowledge.
But they do believe in the karma and
Yeah,
nirvana.
they do believe in
Yeah.
that you're born again and again. Therefore, moksha for them is realizing that Atma is a zero, non existent. They believe in the survival of the Atma until enlightenment, whatever their concept of enlightenment may be. Mm. Thus, in all religions, they talk of an Atma other than the physical body, referred to as the soul, that which survives death. Any given soul is the Karta. He or she is the sinner, and so on. It is a belief, but at the same time, people do look upon that Atma, the survivor, the soul, as one who is subject to all kinds of karma, all kinds of punya, papa, imperfections, and so on, and as one who may get some kind of bliss experience later. All these beliefs were negated here by Krishna. Bhashyakara mentioned specifically those who consider themselves to be great scholars and yet say there is no way of knowing the Atma. They say that knowledge of the Atma free from kartritva, doership, is not possible, and therefore sarva karma sannyasa is also not possible. So this is actually, this whole paragraph is a counter argument to what um, Krishna is propounding here. I will read this once again. Thus, in all religions, they talk of an Atma other than the physical body, referred to as the soul, that which survives death. Any given soul is the Karta. He or she is the sinner, and so on. It is a belief, but at the same time, people do look upon that Atma, the survivor, the soul, as one who is subject to all kinds of karma, all kinds of punya, papa, imperfections, and so on. and as one who may get some kind of bliss experience later. So the other sect, they believe that Atma is the Karta, is the one that experiences all this papa, punya, imperfections, and will experience bliss at some point later. All these beliefs were negated here by Krishna. Bhaskara, Bhashyakara mentioned specifically, Bhashyakara is actually Shankara. The Shankara Bhashya is, Swamiji mentions him as Bhashyakara, mentioned specifically those who consider themselves to be great scholars and yet say there is no way of knowing the Atma. They say that knowledge of the Atma free from kartritva, doership, is not possible. Therefore, sarva karma sannyasa is also not possible. So for them, Atma is actually an object. So they say you need to have that kartritva in order to know Atma, whereas that is, and therefore for them, sarva karma sannyasa is not possible. I am not the doer. It was pointed out that sarva karma sannyasa is only possible if Atma is not a doer, that is akarta. Only when one understands, I am not the doer, aham akarta, does the renunciation of all karmas take place naturally. If the knowledge that I am neither a doer nor an enjoyer has arisen in someone, then sarva karma sannyasa is accomplished by that person. Only if the knowledge itself cannot take place is sarva karma sannyasa an impossibility. But on what basis can you say this knowledge cannot take place? Are you saying such an Atma is not there? And if so, upon what do you base your statement? You cannot say that Atma is not there, since the very act of saying so presupposes an Atma. Isn't it? You can't say Atma is not there. The term Atma itself presupposes that there is an Atma. Because you are existent, you are talking. Therefore, no one can say, I am not there. In the existence of Atma, then, there is no doubt whatsoever. If the doubt is not with reference to the existence of the Atma, then it is with reference to the Atma being akarta. It is easy to assume that there can be no akartra Atma because the Atma is known as karta and not as akarta. And if there is an Atma that is akarta, there is no way of knowing it. This could be the contention of most people who do not understand that there is no kartritva for the Atma. To this we answer as follows. If Atma is the karta, it must always be the karta. If the Atma is always the karta, if kartritva is the very nature of the Atma, then as a doer, it should be doing all the time. But this is not what happens. Sometimes you fall back and do nothing at all. You only enjoy. Then you see only enjoyership, bhoktritva, and no kartritva. Similarly, if enjoyership were the nature of Atma, then Atma would be a bhokta all the time. Thus, Atma is neither karta nor bhokta. There are also moments when neither doership nor enjoyership is there. When there is no I sense at all, because this I notion, ahankara, is absent at times. Between two thoughts, for example. How then are you going to account for this experience You cannot. Nor can you say that the Shastra says the Atma is a Karta, because it says that Atma is a Karta, and we have no data whatsoever to contradict this statement. So there's a lot of logic over here. Lot of Swamiji has mentioned Shankaracharya gives this Purva Paksha. He gives an objection to the statement of the Shastra, and then he goes on to prove how the Shastra's words are right. That is how Shankara's Bhashya is, the whole thing.
Yeah, he asked the question why that, like, which is what we all think, right? Why is Atma is not the doer? Why do we think, why it's not connected like that? So he brings that question again and again, and then give that, trying to prove that this is why it is. That's good.
I think these questions can keep cropping up for a seeker, and therefore, Shankara poses these questions himself. But here, when you say bhoktritva, bhokta and karta, isn't bhoktritva also a kind of karta, also a kind of action? You're
Right.
enjoying, that is also an action, isn't it?
True.
So that is something that I did not really understand here.
Yeah, I think he's when they're using different words, like the action. You're right. Both when they were wild, they were talking about kill or getting killed and all that stuff. And then it becomes now they're talking about karta and karta. Maybe it will follow.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, he'll give you some more answers to that too.
I will read this paragraph again.
Was it in that poem? I mean, sorry, in the verse also we read about this bhokta, right? Like, forever, like when you're doing action is either for enjoyment or other, like, that raga dvesha thing, likes and dislikes. And I don't know whether this is something, what is opposite of bhokta is, I don't remember right now, but we did do that in one of those verses.
I think bhokta here is, if I understand right, see, when you do some action, it accrues the result, karma phala. So bhokta here is the one who enjoys the karma phala. He enjoys the suffers, whatever, papa, punya, because any karma gives you a result, either papa or punya. And therefore, the person has to experience that papa, punya, whatever it is. So that is the bhokta here, I guess. Not that bhokta itself is a kind of action, but experiencing the karma phalas is the bhoktritva here, I suppose. So therefore, there is a karta and a bhokta.
No, I had told about this earlier. Uh, that every author has a way of explaining. But basic spirit of this, I think everyone got it. But his way of explaining, maybe if Sri Ravi Shankar explains something, it can be very sweet and simple. Some other gurus, because of their vintage in Vedanta, to address some other probable questions that could be in the mind of the direct listener or tertiary reader, they may explain it in a very intricate. We should not use complicated. We should say intricate manner with so many things. Sometimes we may not understand the English of it. His how he is trying to explain. I think all of us got one point is doership, enjoyership. They are two things. Sometimes a child eats because its mother is forcing it to eat. Now, enjoyership is not there. It only eats. I have also been a very problem child, eating 1 hour, 1.5 hours a meal, etc. When I still remember when I was a kid. Sometimes enjoyership is not there, but enjoyership is there, but doership is not there. Like you are ideally enjoying something. Somewhere there could be politics in an organization. So some people will, if you go into various offices, you will see people will be there. They will not be doing anything, but still they are enjoying that role is there. They are physically there. They are coming, going. Only thing is they are not doing anything. This also can be there. Sometimes you are not doing anything but still enjoying. Sometimes you are doing means sometimes you are enjoying but not doing. Both this you have to leave, means not leaving the action of with that. I am the enjoyer concept. Like we do Naivedyam and then eat. Then what happens is, I am not devouring the meal. I am offering to God and taking it as a prasadam. So now here also this Naivedyam brings down the enjoyership to a reasonable level. It moderates the enjoyership. So like that, that's what he is trying to say. When you have I-ness and mine-ness, you have two problems. These are the ways in which I-ness and mine-ness express itself for you, which is doer.
Yeah, let's kind of read further and see.
Yeah, we'll read further.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
this, he answered this. I'm just going to read this once again. You cannot say that Atma is not there, since the very act of saying so presupposes an Atma. Because you are existent, you are talking. Therefore, no one can say, I am not there. In the existence of Atma, then, there is no doubt whatsoever. If the doubt is not with reference to the existence of the Atma, then it is with reference to the Atma being Akarta. It is easy to assume that there can be no Akarta Atma, because the Atma is known as Karta and not as Akarta. And if an Atma that is Akarta, there is no way of knowing it. This could be the contention of most people who do not understand that there is no Kartritva for the Atma. To this, we answer as follows. If Atma is the Karta, we must understand here that this Gita home study is actually given by Swami Dayananda as part of a 3-year course to his students. And this is a compilation of all of that. So he's talking to people who are in the process of becoming Gita Charya, process of expounding the knowledge
Teaching.
of Gita. Therefore, he's going into so many depths also.
Details.
Of taking care of doubts that might arise in the listeners.
Yeah, and also translating Sankara Bhashyam, to something else, then it kind of goes into the anytime when you go one language, another language, it expands rather than it shrinks,
Correct.
Yeah.
So if Atma is the Karta, it must always be the Karta. If the Atma is always the Karta, if Kartritva is the very nature of the Atma, then as a doer, it should be doing all the time. But this is not what happens. Sometimes you fall back and do nothing at all. You only enjoy. Then you see only enjoyership, bhoktritva, and no kartritva. Similarly, if enjoyership were the nature of Atma, then Atma would be a bhokta all the time. Thus, Atma is neither karta nor bhokta. There are also moments when neither doership nor enjoyership is there. This is the point I really, hits the nail on the head, no? When there is no I sense at all, because this I notion, ahankara, is absent at times between two thoughts. For example, how then are you going to account for this experience? You cannot. Nor can you say that the Shastra says that the Atma is a karta, because it says that Atma is akarta. And we have no data whatsoever to contradict this statement. You remember, Nana had once mentioned, if there is any doubt, you go back to the Shastra, and the Shastra is your pramana. The Shastra is the word, is the final word.
Shruti,
and for
yeah.
Shruti. And therefore, that becomes your resource. That becomes your source to go to for any doubts and all that. So, whatever is the word of Shastra is to be taken as the truth. And why? How? That requires the element of Shraddha as well.
Yeah.
Why should I believe? You should believe because you need to have the Shraddha, because that is the pramana. You may agree with the Shruti that Atma is akarta, but may say that knowledge of such an Atma is not possible because it is not the object of your mind. But Shastra says that such knowledge has got to be gained by the mind alone, for which there is a pramana, the Shastra. You have a mind that is capable of the knowledge that will destroy the ajnana, the ignorance. This is all that we are talking about, and you say it is not possible. Is it that it is not possible for you, or is it because it is not possible at all? It's funny that we use the mind to know that the mind is not. So that becomes both the instrument of knowledge. You need your mind and intellect for that. That's to negate the mind and intellect, no?
Yeah, he asked that question and then this gives the explanation later. Like that's how it comes. Okay.
Yeah. Can Atma be known? How can I gain the knowledge of the Akartra Atma? I cannot see the Akartra Atma here. I cannot see the Akartrit Atma. Here, Shankara says that knowledge of Atma is not similar to the knowledge of an object, but is rather the removal of ignorance about the subject itself.
There is like when you say that, I mean, even they use the word like I cannot see and all that, we know Atma is, you can't see or perceive or whatnot, it's more of an experience. Then I'm not sure the same question is brought up again, so.
I feel here the nearest example or analogy we can give is like a presence of the sun. Like Gurudev also gives this example that from every window in every house the sunbeam is coming. Can somebody say ki this is my sun and sunbeam and this is your sun and your sunbeam, and it is equally coming everywhere? It in its presence only everything is happening. Without that, nothing is there on the earth. And but we cannot say कि sun and its rays are directly involved for our all activities on this earth. Like that little bit analogy, little bit similarity, we can connect it with Atma. In Atma's presence only everything is happening, and mind is like uh, is the one faculty which gives you the knowledge of the object and the whole outside world. So mind has to become no mind through the meditation and all. Then only that na kartasi na bhoktasi experience will come, I think. Jai Gurudev. Brahmaraji, you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, here Shankara is talking of, Swamiji is talking about the Atma not being an object of perception. Like how we look at an object like a flower or a fruit. Atma is not that way, that knowing Atma is not like similar to knowing an external object. It is only that you remove the ignorance about the subject itself. Just like how the rope and the snake. The rope is always there. The subject is there. Only that we have superimposed the knowledge of the snake. We have mistaken it to be a snake. So what is required is just the removal of this ignorance, that the rope is the rope. There is a knower who has ignorance about himself or herself, and removal of that ignorance is the only knowledge being discussed here. This knowledge, vritti jnana, is I am not the doer. Aham akarta. This thought, vritti, is capable of destroying the ignorance about oneself. A particular fact that I am the Atma, the non-doer, is not known, and ignorance of this fact is removed by a vritti, brought about by the teaching Upadesha. The vritti, having done its job, goes along with the ignorance. This is beautiful, no? Vritti is also a nama rupa, like we've seen earlier. A thought is also a nama rupa, but the Atma is the swarupa behind the vritti. So you use this vritti, which is brought about by the teaching from the pramanas, from the Upadesha, that I am not the doer. And like Chayana had mentioned, in the homa, you use a stick to put the ghee, to rake the fire.
Right.
Finally, you even drop that stick also. So this vritti of I am not the doer, having done its job, it goes along with the ignorance. So that also is offered to the fire. So where is the problem here? We have a complete methodology, prakriya for it. How exactly the knowledge takes place and so on. If you say that it does not take place in your particular mind, antahkarna, then we say that a certain type of antahkarna is necessary and that there are ways for you to gain it. This is why the Gita talks so extensively about yoga and so on. Because you do not want to accept something, you keep on talking about its impossibility. This is because of your commitment to a belief. You are not committed to truth. First, you commit yourself to a belief, to a faith, and then you explore for confirmation of that belief in the Shastra. One should have Shraddha in the Shastra and explore it to find out what it has to convey. Otherwise, there are people who would just blindly keep questioning. We also have had these questions come up, right, in our manana. Why is it so? Why is it so? So the first and foremost is your commitment to a belief. If you are not committed to truth, then you will go on questioning about impossibility. We had questions about the creation. We had questions about how things change, how creation keeps changing. So first, you have to commit yourself to truth. Once you commit yourself to a belief, to a faith, then you explore for confirmation of that belief in the Shastra. So faith is the most important thing. One should have Shraddha in the Shastra and explore it to find out what it has to convey. It is said, no, Shraddha is faith is what? Is you believe and you say, I think Prem knows that. Prem, are you there? And then
Yeah.
the experience of what what is the actual meaning of Shraddha? You believe, that is, you start with it as a belief.
Faith is that believing in what you do not see, and the
Right.
result is you will see what you believe.
Yeah, that is what. Can you say that again?
See, Shraddha is the faith, the focus of the faith. Faith is believing in what you do not see, and the result of that is you will see what you believed. Here, the example we can take immediately that strikes is Surdas. He's a poet, I think, right? Poet and singer and all that, but he is blind. But Kanha comes to him. Krishna came and spoke to him for hours and hours and hours every day, and he could perceive and he could feel. Probably in his, even without his this charma chakshu, he was still able to see Kanha. That is what is faith. Hariyo.
Yeah. So that is what we need to commit ourselves to, a belief, to a faith, and then you explore. So faith is believing in what you do not see, and then the result is you see what you believe. So here the faith is that the Atma is akarta, and you start your exploration and use the Shastra, the Shruti for your exploration and inquiry. And then finally, with that Antakarna Shuddhi, once that is there, then you experience that, and then that is believing what you see. Then that last stroke also, that vritti also gets what is that, the term he said? Even that vritti, having done its job, goes away along with the ignorance.
That vritti jnana, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the vritti jnana, even
Jnana,
that
okay.
goes, that is also gone. It disappears once there is removal of ignorance. The importance of intellectual honesty. If you are honest, committed to truth, all you need to do is look back at what has been said here. But then again, I just wanted to clarify one thing. By Shraddha does not mean you should not ask questions. The very process of exploration requires us to ask pertinent questions, and as in when they crop up, it is good to ask and seek clarity. Shraddha here does not mean blind belief. It is belief subject with an element of inquiry. You have that belief, that faith in the Shruti, but you're also very innocently, sincerely inquiring into the truth. So if you're honest, committed to truth, all you need to do is look back at what has been said here. You will find nothing that you can disown or disprove. All that has been said is something that you have to see as it is. We are not proposing anything speculative. We are not making a promise. We say that you are an akarta, that you are avinashi, indestructible. How can such a person perform any action, there being no action really? There are two types of negation. One is a physical negation, nisheda, and the other is negation by knowledge, badha. The kartritva buddhi is there, and it is negated. You may see the same person performing an action, talking, for example, and at the same time saying that Atma is akarta and so on. One could say that Krishna was talking and was therefore akarta. Arjuna could have said to Krishna, "You are performing the action of talking to me. How then can you tell me that Atma is akarta?" To say that the one who knows Atma does not perform any action means that you do not know Atma. Krishna was definitely performing actions. For one thing, he was driving Arjuna's chariot. Does this not make him an Ajnani? And if he is an Ajnani, what does he have to teach? This kind of question arises only because Atma is not understood. When you see the sun rise, you enjoy it and negate it also. Because you know that the sun does not actually rise. There is a conclusion that the sun rises, and because I see it rising, I say that the conclusion is true. I perceive it. Therefore, the sun rises in the eastern sky. By further knowledge, however, we understand the whole process of why the sun appears as though it is rising. The sun rising becomes only an appearance, and therefore is not a real rising, in that there is no real action of rising on the part of the sun. Thus, seeing the sun rise, you negate it, knowing that it does not rise at all. This is negation by knowledge, badha. You see and still you negate. Similarly, we see a variety of colors in a peacock's feathers, but there are no such colors in fact. The appearance of color is due to different prism-like structures that reflect light in a particular manner. This is purely badha, negation by knowledge. It does not mean that you are negating the perception of color, only that you are negating color being there. Also, the example of the bent stick. You put a stick in water, in a glass of water, you notice that the stick is bent. But with the knowledge that it is not the water, whatever is not bending the stick. You know that it is only it's because of the laws of light. In fact, all science is purely badha. It goes on negating. It sees something and then finds that it is not true, and that something else is true instead. When you go after the substance of a given substance, what was previously considered to be the substance is found to have no substance because it has to depend on another substance for its existence. In this way, we find that any substantive loses its substance and still continues to exist. And although you have negated its existence, you may even use it. Badha is a kind of negation that is done by everyone. A physicist will say that gold is nothing but some quanta of energy. Copper is also some quanta of energy. However, this does not mean that he will give his fiancée a copper engagement ring. Buying a gold ring does not in any way alter his knowledge that both gold and copper are but energy. This is also badha, negation. Seeing it, you negate it. So this is the meaning of although you have negated its existence, you may still use it. Right? So you will not go and give his fiancé a copper ring or a mud ring. You will, of course. So badha then is a different type of negation, and that is how the kartritva buddhi in the Atma is negated. Badha negation is not a simple negation. Once badha is there, regardless of what the jnani does, he or she knows that I perform no action. He's coming from the space of sarva karma sannyasi. This is the knowledge, jnana, and there is no way of losing it. This is what we call sarva karma sannyasa. It does not mean that a person will not do any action. It means that the Sat Chit Ananda Atma does not perform any action. I think we'll stop here. If anybody wants to share anything, we'll continue. There is nothing more to be done tomorrow. So any wrap up on what we studied today? Is the concept of the Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Even a householder can come to that state. King Janaka is an example. And that is, it does not mean he will not act. Like you can't say Krishna being a jnani, why is he talking? He's doing an action. He's acting, but he's from the space of Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Similar to the knowledge that gold is just a quanta of energy, copper is just energy, you do not use it. You continue to use them. But with the knowledge of what they are. Just like how the sun rises, you see the sun rise, that is a perception, but in the back of your mind, with the knowledge that this is only an optical illusion because of the rotation of the earth around its axis and revolution of the earth around the sun, you see that the sun rises. So then you know the sun rises, but it actually does not rise. Similarly, Krishna is talking, he's giving the Gita bhashya, but then he's actually not doing it. Anyone wants to share anything?
Hari Om, just one thing, like what you said, copper is also energy, gold is also energy. Swami Vivekananda once made a statement. He said, chemistry in this world, the laws of anything of chemistry will end when we
Can't
realize
hear.
that
Please be
particular
loud.
element.
So volume is very low. Can't hear.
I think, Prem, you need to remove your Bluetooth or whatever. We can't hear you.
Okay. What Swami Vivekananda said is, it will be the end of chemistry the moment you realize, the moment you discover that one element with which the whole universe is made of. That's what he meant. That one element with which the whole universe is made of, if you know that, it is the end of chemistry, he said. Yeah. It's a deep statement, right?
That is.
We are all made of the whole universe, either a tree or a plant or a gold, copper, you, me, are all made up of one element. Once we realize that what that one element is, it is the end of chemistry, he says. There are no permutations, combinations, nothing. It is that element in different concentrations. Hari Om.
Yeah, that's very profound. It is like the whole world, whole creation is nothing but a play and display of consciousness. No?
Like you call the same substance, you call it as water, you call it as ice, you call it as vapor, but it's the same. This is only one simple example of water. And it is that particular, in that yoga book we studied, na Brahmara, going back and deep, what happens is we are all just vibrations. That is where we ended up, right? That is how this also is.
You know, I wanted, yeah, very nice. I wanted to share this knowledge. I was reading yesterday knowledge sheet of, you know, beyond a knowledge, beyond any event is knowledge, beyond any object is infinity. So this object, I mean, the relevance here is that when you go on finding out the object, when you start analyzing the object, for instance, you have gold or copper, it is made of atoms. And then when you go on dissecting and go on inquiring further, you notice that there is only protons, electrons, neutrons. That was the earlier thinking, but there is so much of space there. So when you go beyond an object, what you find is just infinity, is just space. So when you look at objects also from this with this background, then what you see is nothing but the infinity or consciousness there. Not to say that we don't use them. We of course use them. Use that knowledge, but still use it. You know that dosa, when you dissect and go analyze it, that is the same as the table, as the same as mud, but you don't eat mud because you say, oh, it is the same. Correct? There we use the transactional reality and then eat dosa, put it on the table, put it on a plate, and then eat it. So, but there is this background knowledge that everything is the same. Is everything? Yeah. So shall we wind up here today? Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Gurudev. Hari Om.